Bose, you are the most troublesome man in the college. I suspend you. These were the words of the principal, and Subhash Chandra Bose was expelled from the college. The future appeared dark. He decided to return to Cuttack and ready to face the ire of his parents. Reaching Cuttack, to his surprise, he found that his parents understood his plight and sympathized with him. Having nothing else to do, Subhash plunged again into the social service, especially voluntary nursing of the poor section of community suffering from cholera and smallpox, and arranging the cremation of the victims of these diseases by raising money for the funeral expenses. After a year in Cuttack, Subhash returned to Calcutta to try his luck with the university where Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee was the virtual dictator. Growing restless with waiting for the university to reconsider his case, Subhash tried to enlist himself in the 49th Bengali Regiment but was rejected only on the ground of his defective eyesight. One more year passed before the university relented. The then principal of his old college raised no objection to his admission to the Scottish Church College, which was arranged largely through efforts of Subhash's second brother, Sarat Chandra Bose. Subhash now took to his studies in the right earnest and also joined the university unit in the Indian Defence Force. During training in camp near Fort William, Subhash donned khaki and took marketeering practice. He marveled at his own transformation from sitting at the feet of saffron-robed anchorites to standing with a rifle on the shoulder and taking orders from a British officer. Subhash thoroughly enjoyed the soldiering, which he found gave a fillip to his feeling of strength and self-confidence. He experienced a strange sensation on the first day when, with the other trainees, he marched into Fort William to pick up his rifle. The gates of Fort William were closed to him as an Indian, but were thrown open to him as a soldier. He was puffed up during the route marches through the city when he and his comrades felt superior to the police and other government agents who had been harassing and terrorizing them. At the BA examination in 1919, Subhash was the first class honours in philosophy but was placed second in order of merit, which came to him as a slight disappointment. He took experimental psychology for his MA course, but a few months later, his father came to Calcutta one day and, after talk with Sarat, asked Subhash if he wanted to go to England to study for Indian Civil Service examination. Entering the ICS was the greatest ambition of young Indians in those days. Subhash was given 24 hours to make up his mind. The proposal came to him as a total surprise. He had qualms and conscious about joining the ICS and serving under the British. But he made up his mind to go, saying to himself that he could never pass the examination within the only 8 months that would be left after reaching England. Because of his age, he had only one chance to appear. If, however, he got through, well, there'll be plenty of time to decide what to do. Subhash sailed for England on the 15th September 1919. Arriving there 3 weeks later, he secured admission in the Cambridge University and settled down to work in the first week of November. At Cambridge, he had an unusually large number of lectures to attend. The subjects for his civil service examination were English composition, Sanskrit, philosophy, English law, political science, modern European history, English history, economics and geography. What greatly impressed Subhash at Cambridge was the measure of freedom allowed to students and the general esteem in which they were held. This was in striking contrast to the police-ridden city of Calcutta, where every student was a suspect as a potential revolutionary. Subhash sat for the civil service examination. It was an open competition in England, and though he had worked hard, he was not very hopeful. To his surprise, however, he was not only successful in the examination, but came out fourth. Now he faced the most difficult problem in his career. Was he to bid goodbye to all the dreams and aspirations and settle down to a comfortable life? It took him 7 long, agonizing months finally to make up his mind. Meanwhile, he corresponded with his second brother, Sarat, on the subject. The letters give an insight into the mind of Subhash, who had to take a fateful decision which he knew would very much hurt his parents. Here are some extracts. The civil service can bring one all kinds of worldly comfort, but national and political and spiritual aspirations are not compatible with obedience. On principle, I cannot accept the ideas of being a part of machinery which has outlived the days of its usefulness and stands at present for all that is connected with conservation and selfish power. I am now at the crossroad and no compromise is possible. I must either chuck this rotten service and dedicate myself wholeheartedly to the country's cause, or I must bid adieu to all my ideals and aspirations and enter the service. If C.R. Das at his age can give up everything and face the uncertainties of life, I am sure a young man like me, who has no worldly cares to trouble him, is much more capable of doing so. The illustrious example of Aurobindo Ghosh looms large before my vision. I feel that I am ready to make the sacrifice which that example demands of me. I believe that we shall get home rule within 10 years and certainly earlier if we are ready to pay the price. The price consists of sacrifices and suffering. Only on the soil of sacrifice and suffering can we raise our natural edifice. If we all stick to our jobs and look after our own interests, I do not think we shall get home rule even in 50 years. We have got to make a nation, and a nation can be made only by uncompromising idealism of Hampden and Cromwell. I have come to believe that it is time for us to wash our hands clean of any connection with the British government. The best way to end the government is to withdraw from it. I sent in my resignation a few days ago. C.R. Das has written in reply to letter of mine about the work that it is already being done. He complains that there is dearth of sincere workers at present. There will consequently be plenty of congenial work for me when I return home. The die is cast, and I earnestly hope that nothing but good will come out of it.